My private wish to marry her was just a thought, until she turned around and said yes. Ships of all shapes and sizes glided overhead, some sleek and silver, others oddly asymmetrical with blinking lights. Humans had colonized this planet only a few decades ago, yet it had grown into a bustling hub where aliens and humans mixed daily. For Kale, it was both inspiring and intimidating. He adjusted the strap of his utility bag and walked through the crowd, careful to avoid the hovering carts that delivered goods at impossible speeds. Kale was a human engineer, someone who fixed things others thought impossible to repair. Small machines, large transport shuttles, delicate communication devices, he could fix them all. But today his mind wasn't on machines. His mind was on her, Lyra. She moved through the spaceport like she owned it, though Kale knew she didn't. She was an alien diplomat, tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered faintly in the light and eyes that glowed a soft blue. Her movements were precise, calculated, and somehow graceful. Every time she passed him, Kale felt his chest tighten. He had admired her quietly for months. From afar, he had practiced conversations in his head, imagined asking her to dinner, even imagined a future where she laughed at his jokes. And on rare, daring nights, he had allowed himself one private thought: maybe one day I could ask her to marry me. He shook his head, scolding himself. That was a foolish thought, a private wish that could never see daylight. After all, humans and aliens rarely mixed emotionally in that way. Lyra had her duties, her own world of protocols and ceremonies, and Kale was just a simple human engineer. Yet, despite all this, the thought lingered. Kale's day had started like any other. He had been called to fix a shuttle, a diplomatic shuttle no less, that had developed a strange energy leak. Normally, humans didn't handle alien craft unless it was routine, but this was urgent. Lyra's shuttle could not wait for a repair team from her home planet, and Kale's reputation for clever solutions had earned him this rare task. He entered the maintenance bay where the shuttle hovered, its metallic hull gleaming under the artificial lights. Lyra was already there, observing with quiet intensity. She noticed everything: the flicker of a loose wire, the hum of a failing core, but she didn't touch anything. That was the alien way: observing first, acting only when necessary. Kale approached the shuttle, tools in hand, and bowed slightly. "Lyra, I'll do my best. The energy leak shouldn't take long to fix." Lyra inclined her head politely. "I trust your judgment, Kale. Humans are interesting in how they solve problems." Kale smiled nervously. Interesting? That could mean 100 things, but he chose to take it as a compliment. He had always known that humans were different, creative, sometimes reckless but incredibly adaptable. And apparently, aliens noticed that too. The repair was not easy. The shuttle's core had an unusual configuration, one that no manual had prepared him for. Most engineers would have called for help, but Kale enjoyed challenges. He crouched beside the open panel, eyes scanning circuits and conduits, fingers moving deftly over alien technology that seemed almost alive under his touch. Lyra watched, her expression unreadable, but her glowing eyes followed every movement. Kale could feel the weight of her attention. It made his heart pound harder. He focused, steadying himself, reminding himself that he was a professional. "Just a machine," he muttered quietly. "Nothing to worry about." Hours passed and Kale made progress. He rewired circuits, adjusted energy flows, and recalibrated the core. Each step required intuition, something no manual could teach. And with every adjustment he felt a quiet thrill, the kind that humans felt when they solved something impossible. Finally, with a soft hum, the shuttle's core stabilized. Lights blinked in perfect rhythm and the energy leak disappeared. Kale stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's fixed," he said, trying to sound casual. Lyra approached, her glowing eyes meeting his. "Indeed. Humans, you have a talent for this. Not just skill, but intuition. You see things differently and it works." Kale's chest swelled with pride. Thank you, I like solving problems. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. It seems you also solve more than machines, Kale. Kale blinked, unsure what she meant. She tilted her head, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. You think quietly, don't you? Thoughts you keep to yourself, I can see it. Your private thoughts, they are bold. Kale's mind raced. Did she just? He forced a casual tone. Oh, I suppose everyone has private thoughts. Nothing unusual. Lyra laughed softly, a sound that seemed to resonate with warmth and light. Perhaps not for humans. Your species dares to imagine things that are impossible. Kale swallowed hard. His private wish, the one he had kept locked away, suddenly felt too heavy to hold. Maybe, just maybe, I could tell her, but the words didn't leave his lips. Not yet. Instead, he said, it was a pleasure helping you, Lyra, truly. She nodded, and then, just as she turned to leave, she paused. Slowly, deliberately, she looked back at him, and in a soft, almost teasing voice, she said, I'd like to hear those thoughts someday sooner rather than later. Kale froze. His heart jumped into his throat. Did she really just? Before he could respond, she walked away, her presence leaving a faint shimmer in the air, as if the very light of the spaceport had noticed her departure. Kale stood there, stunned. His private wish, his secret thought, was no longer private. For the first time in his life, Kale realized that maybe humans weren't the only ones capable of daring. Maybe, just maybe, aliens could understand the courage it took to imagine a future that others thought impossible. Walking back through the crowded spaceport, Kale tried to focus on normal things, the engines, the traders, the distant neon signs, but his mind kept returning to Lyra. Her words echoed in his head. I'd like to hear those thoughts someday sooner rather than later. Could it be that she wanted to know him? Not just the engineer who could fix machines, but the human who dared to imagine impossible dreams. The day ended with Kale sitting on the edge of a platform, looking at the stars. Ships glided silently across the sky, and the city hummed below him. For years, he had believed that his dreams were too small, too foolish, too private to share. Now, for the first time, he felt the thrill of possibility, and he smiled. A quiet, small smile that carried more hope than he had felt in years. Tomorrow, he thought, he would go back to the workshop, repair more machines, and maybe, just maybe, think a little more boldly. Perhaps one day he would tell Lyra his private wish. Perhaps one day she would say yes. For now, though, it was enough to know that the impossible could be imagined. That a human thought, one quiet, private wish, could ripple across worlds and perhaps, just perhaps, reach the one who mattered most. And with that thought, Kale stood, took a deep breath of the alien night air, and walked back into the bustling, vibrant, and endless world that humans were slowly, surely, leaving their mark on. The next morning, Kale arrived at the workshop earlier than usual. The sun, or rather, the twin suns of the planet, had barely begun to rise, casting pale gold light across the city. He set his tools down carefully and ran a mental checklist for the day. Another shuttle needed repairs, several communication devices were malfunctioning, and a curious alien energy converter awaited his inspection. But Kale could not focus. His thoughts kept drifting back to Lyra. Her words from the previous evening played in his mind over and over. I'd like to hear those thoughts someday sooner rather than later. He shook his head. He had no idea what she meant by that. Was she teasing him? Or had she really understood something about him that no one else did? Kale sighed and turned to the first machine, hoping the familiar hum of circuits and wires would calm his racing mind. As he worked, he could not help but notice how different the alien technology was. Its design was elegant and complex, yet Kale found patterns in the chaos. He loved moments like these, moments when human ingenuity could take something complicated and make it work smoothly again. It was then that Lyra arrived. Not in a shuttle this time, but walking through the open doors of the workshop. She wore a simple uniform, her glowing eyes scanning the room with quiet curiosity. "Good morning, Kale," she said. "I see you are already at work." Kale stood and nodded, trying to keep his composure. "Good morning, Lyra. Yes, I like to start early. It helps me think." Lyra smiled faintly. "Humans and your work habits. Fascinating. I wonder how you manage to combine thought, hands, and heart all at once." Kale chuckled nervously. "It's nothing, just practice mostly." Lyra tilted her head. "Practice is nothing without patience and understanding. You have both." The words warmed Kale in a way that no compliment from another human ever had. He felt small, awkward, but also seen. Lyra, the alien diplomat who usually seemed untouchable, had noticed him. Not just the engineer, but him, the human with quiet thoughts and private wishes. "Do you want to see what I'm working on?" Kale asked, pointing to the energy converter. Lyra moved closer and knelt beside him, watching intently. "Yes, explain your process to me." Kale began talking, carefully explaining each step. As he did, he noticed Lyra asking questions that were not in the manuals or procedures, questions that showed curiosity, not protocol. She wanted to understand the why, not just the how. "You see," Kale said, pointing to a small conduit, "this part needs careful alignment. If it's slightly off, the energy flow becomes unstable." Most engineers would just replace it, but sometimes understanding the pattern is faster and better. Lyra's glowing eyes widened. "You are patient, clever. I can see why humans are capable of imagination." Kale felt a rush of pride, but also something more tender. Could this be admiration, or perhaps something closer to affection? He couldn't tell. But what he did know was that he wanted to impress her, not just with his skills, but with who he was. Days passed in a rhythm that felt almost magical. Kale and Lyra spent long hours together, repairing machines, discussing energy flows, and sometimes just walking through the city to observe its unusual blend of human and alien architecture. They shared quiet jokes, small stories about their lives, and moments of laughter that seemed to surprise even the busiest alien officials who occasionally passed by. One afternoon, as they repaired a hovering cargo ship, a sudden problem occurred. The ship's anti-gravity system began to falter, sending containers wobbling dangerously. Aliens nearby panicked, unsure how to fix the machine. Kale moved quickly, assessing the situation with calm precision. "Lyra, hold the stabilizer," he instructed, "and keep it steady while I adjust the energy matrix." Lyra did as he asked, her hands steady despite the wobbling containers. Kale adjusted the matrix, rewiring circuits in a way that required intuition and careful judgment. Within minutes, the system stabilized. The containers floated safely, and the gathered aliens stared in awe. "You humans," one alien muttered, shaking its head. "You handle things differently. Not stronger, not faster, just clever." Kale smiled quietly, glancing at Lyra. She gave him a small nod, a silent acknowledgement that his actions had impressed her. But even more than that, she seemed to understand why he did it, because he cared, not because he wanted recognition. That evening, Kale and Lyra walked along the edge of the spaceport, where the city met the desert plains beyond. The suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. Kale felt his heart beat faster, unsure how to speak the words he had rehearsed in his mind countless times. "Lyra," he began, hesitating, "there's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time." Lyra turned her glowing eyes to him, waiting patiently. "Yes." Kale swallowed hard. I think about you, often, more than I should. And well, I've always wondered if you could maybe care about me too." There was a pause. Kale's mind raced, imagining rejection, embarrassment, the end of his secret hope. But then Lyra smiled, and it was not the polite smile of protocol. It was warm, genuine, and full of understanding. "I think about you too, Kale," she said softly. "Your thoughts, they are honest, brave, and human. I have wondered if your kind of emotion could exist across our differences. Now I see that it does." Kale's heart leapt. He wanted to say more, to explain everything he had ever felt, But before he could, Lyra placed a hand lightly on his arm. The touch was gentle but electrifying, a reminder that some things did not need words to be understood. The next days were filled with a new energy. Kale and Lyra worked side by side, but there was an unspoken bond between them. She asked about his childhood, about why humans took such risks, and he shared stories he had never told anyone. He learned about her responsibilities as a diplomat, the pressures of her world, and the small joys that kept her going. One morning, Kale prepared a small surprise. Using scraps and tools from the workshop, he built a miniature model of the spaceport city. Tiny hovering shuttles, glowing lights, even the twin suns shining over the skyline. It was simple but beautiful. Lyra's eyes widened as she examined it. Kale, this is remarkable. You have recreated our world with heart, Kale smiled shyly. I wanted you to see it and maybe to see me a little differently too. Lyra's gaze softened. I do see you differently. I think I always have. Your private thoughts, they are brave, clever, and very human. For the first time, Kale felt that his thoughts were not just private wishes. They were important, real, and capable of touching someone else's heart. He realized that humans had something unique, the courage to feel deeply, to imagine wildly, and to act kindly, even in ways that others might not understand. But happiness rarely comes without a little tension. One day, during a busy diplomatic meeting, Kale tried to help Lyra with a minor technical problem in front of a crowd. An alien official misinterpreted his actions as interference, assuming he was trying to bypass protocol. Lyra's calm voice cut through the confusion. He is helping, not interfering. Humans often approach problems differently, but their methods work. The crowd murmured in surprise. They had never seen humans handle complex situations with both cleverness and humility. Kale's heart swelled, but he also felt a pang of embarrassment. Even with Lyra's support, misunderstandings could still happen. That evening, as they walked along the city's edge again, Kale looked at her. I'm sorry about today. I didn't mean to make things awkward. Lyra shook her head. It was not awkward, it was human, and humans have a way of surprising everyone. Kale smiled, thinking about how different humans were. They were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most powerful, but they had ingenuity, courage, and a kind of boldness that no protocol or custom could contain. And somehow, Lyra appreciated all of it. He took a deep breath. The moment was right. He had to say the words he had kept inside for so long. Lyra, I have a private wish, a thought I've never shared with anyone. I want to spend my life with you. I want you to be part of my world. If you feel the same, I hope. Lyra smiled again, placing a hand over his. Kale, I have known this wish in your heart for some time, and I have wondered if I could feel the same. You do not need to speak it to me anymore. I understand, and I think I would like that very much. Kale froze. Could this be real? Could his private wish, the one he had thought too bold, too human, too impossible, actually be shared? Lyra leaned closer, her glowing eyes meeting his. The human way is remarkable, to think privately, to dream, and to act with heart. I see now why your species is unforgettable. Kale's chest swelled with emotion. He wanted to laugh, cry, and shout all at once. The impossible had become possible. His private thought had been acknowledged, cherished, and returned. As the twin suns set behind them, Kale realized something profound. Humans were different. They felt deeply, acted boldly, and dared to imagine impossible futures. And in that moment, he understood that the galaxy had not yet seen the full measure of what humans could do, especially when their hearts were involved. Walking back to the city, side by side with Lyra, Kale felt lighter than ever. His private wish was no longer just a thought. It was real. And tomorrow promised even more adventures, discoveries, and moments of wonder, as human courage and kindness continued to shine in a galaxy still learning to appreciate it. The morning sun rose slowly over the spaceport city, painting the streets with shades of gold and Amber. Kale could hardly sleep the night before. His heart had been racing since Lyra had acknowledged his private wish. Now, standing at the edge of the bustling platform, he felt the weight of what was about to happen. Today, he would finally make his thoughts known, not just as wishes but as intentions. Kale's fingers traced the edge of his utility bag, where he had carefully packed a small creation, a miniature model of the city they lived in, with tiny shuttles and glowing lights. It was not grand, but it was personal. Every detail had been designed with Lyra in mind, a reflection of their shared experiences over the past weeks. He spotted her in the distance, walking toward him with the calm grace that always left him breathless. Her eyes glowed softly as she approached, and Kale felt a thrill of nervous excitement. Today, the private wish would no longer be private. "Good morning, Kale," Lyra said, her voice carrying the same warmth he had grown to love. "I see you are up early." Kale smiled, swallowing hard. "Good morning, Lyra. Yes, I wanted to show you something." She tilted her head, curious. "Something? What is it?" Kale opened the bag and carefully placed the miniature model of the city on the platform's edge. The tiny shuttles hovered slightly, powered by small magnetic cores, and the city's lights twinkled like stars. Lyra's glowing eyes widened in astonishment. This is incredible," she said softly. "You made this?" Kale nodded. "Yes. Every detail, every part of this model, it represents our city, our work, and well us. I wanted you to see it, to see how much you've inspired me." Lyra knelt beside the model, her hands hovering over it without touching. "You humans, you have a way of expressing yourself that is remarkable, bold yet thoughtful. I can see why your kind is admired across the galaxy." Kale felt a warmth spread through his chest. He had hoped she would appreciate it, but hearing it spoken aloud made his heart swell. "I have something else to say, Lyra," he continued, his voice trembling slightly. "My private wish, the thought I have kept for so long, I want it to become real. I want to spend my life with you. I want us to face challenges together, to explore the galaxy together, and to be together always. If you feel the same, will you?" Kale's voice faltered. He had rehearsed these words countless times in his mind, but saying them aloud, under the twin suns with Lyra's eyes fixed on him, felt entirely different. Lyra reached out, placing her hand gently on his. The glow of her eyes softened, and she smiled. "Kale, I have known your thoughts longer than you realize. Your private wish, it is brave, human, and very honest. I see now that our hearts are not so different. I would like nothing more than to share this journey with you." Kale's breath caught in his throat. Could this be real? His private thought, the one he had thought too bold, too human, too impossible, was now a shared reality. He laughed softly, almost in disbelief, and Lyra laughed with him. The sound was light and musical, carrying across the bustling city. For the first time, Kale felt truly at peace. His wish had been acknowledged, cherished, and returned. Together, they spent the day walking through the city, visiting places they had discovered over the past weeks. Kale pointed out small details in the architecture, places where human ingenuity had blended seamlessly with alien design. Lyra shared stories of her diplomatic missions, the challenges she had faced, and the moments that had shaped her. Everywhere they went, humans and aliens alike noticed them. Whispers of admiration followed them through the streets. Humans had always been clever, but now, seeing one of their own boldly express love and courage in a way that crossed species and cultural boundaries left many in awe. Kale and Lyra stopped at a small garden overlooking the city. The air was filled with the scent of alien flowers, their petals glowing faintly in the afternoon light. Kale took Lyra's hands in his. "I know our worlds are different," he said softly. "Our customs, our expectations, but I believe that with honesty, understanding, and a little courage, we can build something beautiful together, something stronger than either of our worlds alone." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "I believe the same, Kale. Humans are different, yes, but your kind has a strength that is rare, The courage to imagine, to feel deeply, and to act with heart. That is why I want to be with you. That is why I said yes. Kale felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. Not tears of sadness, but of joy and wonder. Humans had a way of experiencing life fully, of daring to dream, and now he understood that his heart had carried him farther than any machine or shuttle ever could. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows over the city, Kale and Lyra shared a quiet moment of closeness. No words were needed. Their hands intertwined, their hearts beating in unison, and the world around them seemed to pause. The city's lights flickered on, tiny stars mirrored in the streets and the hovering shuttles. Aliens watched with curiosity and admiration, realizing that human courage and kindness were not just stories. They were real, living, and inspiring. That evening, Kale invited Lyra to his small workshop. Together, they built a miniature starship, a symbol of the adventures they would undertake. Kale explained each detail from the navigation system to the tiny energy cores, and Lyra listened intently, asking questions, suggesting improvements, and sharing her own insights. It was not just work. It was collaboration, trust, and shared vision. Humans were capable of bold ideas, Lyra realized, but what made them extraordinary was their willingness to act, to care, and to bring others into their dreams. Days turned into weeks, and Kale and Lyra's bond grew stronger. The city continued to thrive, humming with life, trade, and endless possibilities. But amidst all that activity, there was a quiet, steady certainty between them, that their hearts were aligned, that their lives were intertwined, and that their journey together had only just begun. Kale often thought back to that first moment, the night he had imagined a private wish that seemed impossible. Now, standing beside Lyra, he realized that imagination had been the first step, courage had been the second, and honesty, the willingness to share his thoughts, had made everything possible. Lyra noticed the same thing. In her world, emotions were often hidden, decisions guided by logic and protocol. But humans dared to feel deeply, to act boldly, and to hope. That strength, quiet, persistent, and genuine, was something the galaxy had never truly appreciated. And as Kale and Lyra looked out over the city, hand in hand, they felt it. The vastness of the universe, full of challenges, mysteries, and possibilities. Yet for the first time they did not feel small or alone. Together they could face anything. That night, as the twin moons rose and the city lights twinkled like distant stars, Kale whispered softly to Lyra, "My private wish is no longer private. It is ours." Lyra smiled, leaning close, "And it always will be." The galaxy watched quietly, a little wiser now. Humans had shown once again that strength was not only in power, speed, or authority. True strength was in courage, kindness, ingenuity, and the willingness to act on the heart's deepest desires. And so, the human engineer and the alien diplomat began a new chapter, together, dreaming boldly, acting with heart, and leaving a mark on the galaxy that would not be forgotten. For Kale, the private wish that had once been nothing more than a fleeting thought had become real, shared, and celebrated. And for Lyra, the human way of daring, imagining, and caring had changed her understanding of life, love, and the universe forever. In a galaxy that often overlooked humans, one simple truth had emerged. When humans dare to dream, even the impossible can become reality.